Hello, I'm delighted to be here today with Jamie Peate from McCann. So Jamie, it'd be great if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Delighted to be here, Lynne. So I am the Global Head of Effectiveness in Retail for McCann Worldgroup and McCann. And what that means is I kind of wear two hats. I am in charge of leading on effectiveness across the network. So that's across the whole network, across the whole globe. And there's really two parts to that. That is about helping us build a shared effectiveness culture with our clients. So obviously that is doing lots of training, awareness, process stuff with our teams around the network, and then also involving clients in that process as well. So that's really important. And then the second part of it is also looking at independent effectiveness awards as a kind of marker to our success. There's a phrase that I use quite often, which is, you don't go to the moon to put a flag in it, but putting a flag in the moon shows that you went there. So writing effectiveness awards and entering effectiveness awards is a great independent marker of the marker and the strength of the creative effectiveness of the work we do. I also think that writing awards makes you better at your job. It makes you confront and understand your own effectiveness or lack of effectiveness.
Yes.
And ultimately that makes you better. And it builds a great shared culture with clients. So that's the effectiveness part of the job. The retail part of the job is I am the global strategy lead for Aldi, which is a very large account for McCann Worldgroup. And I've been involved with Aldi for the last 15 years nearly. So we've been on a real journey with them, but that journey has we've really built with them a shared effectiveness culture, and that has also then been borne out in independent effectiveness awards like Effie's, UK, European, global, also the IPA Effectiveness Awards, Institute of Practitioners in Advertising, and also people like Walk, their awards as well. I'm a real believer that effectiveness and creativity are sort of yin and yang of the same thing. They're yin and yang of impact. Creativity is the magic that the logic of effectiveness understands, and the logic of effectiveness is what enables creativity, and together they deliver impact. And what do we mean by impact? We mean work that makes a positive, lasting impression on people. Work that's noticed, it's noticed, it's understood, it's liked, it's remembered.
So I love that. So a shared culture of creative effectiveness, we find that makes a massive difference to the quality of the work that people create if they're anchored in that set of principles. And then, recognizing that and ensuring you're achieving that.
Yes, exactly.
And we'd say, there isn't a recipe for a great ad, but there's lots of ingredients, which I think is what you're touching on. So creativity is a means to earn attention because people pay attention to things that are different. Of course, then connecting that to your brand, which you've done so brilliantly with Aldi, as you were saying. So we're here at Ignite recording this today. So I wondered, what are your key takeouts? What will you take away and what will you do with that?
Well, I think it's been a fantastic session, and plug for Ignite. Anybody who's not been along to one of these, come along there, which really is a great thought-provoking session. There are a number of things. First of all, it was a great session, first thing early this morning, led by Russell Parsons from Marketing Week, talking about sort of, one of the questions that swirled around for a long time, which is, creativity, marketing, and the boardroom, and the role of, how do marketeers engage CFOs and CEOs to understand that the money that is put into marketing and advertising is an investment, it's not a cost. And there were some really interesting points raised. And one particular thing sticks in my mind, this idea that Warren Buffett made more than 99% of his money post the age of 51, because it was a compounding of all the investments he'd done before. And marketing and advertising works a bit like that.
Absolutely.
All the investment that you've put into it in the past is how you reap rewards in the long and the short going forward. So that was a wonderful session and could have actually gone on a lot longer. We were just chatting about them before. And then, of course, the irrepressible Mark Ritson, was really good and was talking around the three core elements for those people who don't know of the Kantar brand power model. So meaningfulness, salience, difference. And he sort of unpacked it and talked about a few things that were very interesting, particularly how important salience is, how important that it is to just be salient, to come to mind in the right context, the context of category entry points, and how that's possibly one of the most important things. But then also how important difference is, and how difference and distinction distinctiveness are subtly different. You know, this difference or relative difference, this idea of having more of something that shoppers or customers might be interested in, and hence differentiate you. But the idea of difference being distinctiveness, being how you show up, how you are recognized as you. So I thought that was a really, really interesting session. And if that's available on content for people to watch, afterwards, I very much say that you should watch it because it was really, really good.
That's great, thank you.
And humour. Oh, Lynne, how could I forget it, of course? Your own session. How could I forget? Lynne did a great session on humour, a subject that I am extremely keen on. Lynne and I share something, is we're both from Blackpool, and I grew up there. One of my brothers is a musician, worked there for a long time, played the famous Tower organ at one stage. And it's taught me that, there are two things to think about, or there are two possibly, and it's bothism, which is another thing that Mark was talking about, wasn't it? There are two things that are interesting in marketing and advertising. This idea of salesmanship versus showmanship. And, salesmanship, which really, if we think about activational stuff, if we think about direct marketing or direct customer marketing, or things that are very activational short term, salesmanship is extremely important. It tends to be quite rational, but showmanship is also really important. And showmanship is particularly important when you want to attract people who aren't necessarily absolutely in the market for your brand or your product or your service at that moment. And humour has a real role in showmanship. Humour is a great way of attracting and holding attention. It's a great way, as you were talking about today, of creating positive memory, a memory that, that the nature of memory is it decays. So humour is a great way to positively top that up all the time. And then one of the other things that I also like about one of the great things about humour is a great break to rigidity. It allows you to break your rigidity of thinking or your rigidity of behaviour, and that means you can change, or you can nudge people's behaviour through humour. I always quote, the great Peter Ustinov, comedy or humour, it's a funny way of being serious. Mm-hmm. You can make some very serious points that people will notice, understand, and remember, but you can make them in a humorous way. And sometimes that's actually a lot more powerful.
I agree. There's a brilliant Ricky Gervais quote as well, where he talks about humour being like an inoculation against, talking about things that would otherwise be offensive.
Yes.
So it gives you permission to talk about things that are difficult. So that's part of the reason why I'm dressed like this today in this rather glittery red outfit.
Yours up as well?
Yeah, is because we talked about Christmas.
Yeah.
And Christmas ads in the UK last year, we saw a big up in effectiveness. We saw a change to them using humour a lot more. I think that comes from, for a while, brands were all trying to be a Me Too to John Lewis. Mm-hmm. Then we had Cadbury Secret Santa in 2022 with the wonderful Jeff the Postie.
Yes.
And I think brands realised that actually disrupting the status quo, doing it in your own way, being different was the right thing to do. So we saw this resurgence in humour, but we also saw a greater connection to brands. So I wonder, did you have a favourite ad from Christmas last year, a funny one perhaps?
Last year, well, so not talking about your own, which is fair enough. I think the M&S ad with Ryan Reynolds with the mittens was very good. I think that M&S is interesting. I think it was the third outing for the Fairy, Dawn French as the Fairy.
Yep.
And I think they've got better and better as they've developed, and they've actually got funnier. I thought I really enjoyed that. I particularly I think it wasn't actually last year, I think it was the year, well, actually no, there was last year, but also the year before. I'm actually a big fan of the Amazon ads. I think it's quite fashionable to bash Amazon sometimes because of people's views about some of their business practices. Having said that, I go back to the one which I think was 2 years ago, which was the singing boxes with the famous song, give a little bit of my love to you.
Those brothers, yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was born, first of all, it was highly memorable. Secondly, as you were talking about this morning, Lynne, one of the things you just have to watch a little bit with humour and entertainment is that the branding, that it's linked strongly to the brand. It used to be called, years ago, we used to call it in the advertising industry, don't have a vision vampire. In other words, don't have something that steals all the attention, but then you don't remember, the funny dog or cat.
Yes, yeah.
It's not linked to the brand. But I thought the singing boxes with the smile, and I also thought the insight around remembering to send a little bit of love, and people do it thinking on the bus, thinking, oh, blimey, I forgot to send Auntie Beryl a Christmas present. I thought that was brilliant. I thought the tobogganing grannies of last year to the Beatles in My Life was again, took the idea forward and was really, really good.
Yes.
And again, it's another example where, the great and the good of the advertising industry maybe don't like it because it's not seen as, it's not got novelty and it's not got innovation in it, the new, but it's a really, really solid and creative piece of work, in my humble opinion.
Yes.
And often when I'm judging effectiveness awards, which I do quite a lot, one of the things that I always try and emphasize to the rest of the jury is, of course we want new thinking, and of course we want innovation, but actually rewarding good, solid, best practice is a really good thing to do, because there's a heck of a lot of not best practice. Yeah. So I like both of those ads very much.